Hey, it's Sumskark11, and a while back I did a video on ideas for more dungeons that could have been in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Today I'm going to expand on that and go into more detail about how one of those dungeon ideas could have worked. If there's enough interest in this, I could make this whole series and do videos on all the different locations that I thought of for more dungeons. But for now I'm going to focus on one that already has a quest that could be expanded into a full dungeon, and that is the Lurelin Village Pirate Invasion. So what happens in Lurelin Village is you get the quest to go there, you fight off some bokoblins there, after you hear there's pirates that invade the village, then you fight off more bokoblins over on Eventide Island in 3 pirate strongholds, and then finally just you go into the cave at the back and fight more bokoblins. So this was an incredibly disappointing quest. When I first saw it, the first time I played, I was thinking, whoa, cool, pirates. We get to fight pirates for a whole storyline here. And then there's really no storyline, and there's no pirates, it's just bokoblins. So then the first step of that, in changing that into a dungeon idea, is instead of regular bokoblins, because that's just so disappointing, have it be bokoblins in pirate hats. It'd be goofy, but that's fitting for how a lot of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is. There's a lot of silly stuff. So, bokoblins and pirate hats. Simple, but at least it would actually be worth calling them pirates for that. Alternatively, if you wanted a more serious storyline here, it could be Yiga pirates, where it's Yiga clan members in pirate clothes over their suits, their ninja suits. That would also be funny, but would make it a bit more of a serious threat instead of just generic monsters. But anyway, for this, I'm going to be keeping with the idea that it's bokoblins, but they're pirate bokoblins wearing pirate hats and other pirate clothes. So the pirate bokoblins could have 10% more HP than their standard color variants. This way it would be a bit more a challenge to take them out across the village. And this would act as the lead up to the dungeon that we have in all the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom, where you travel across an area, do some stuff, fight a mini-boss, and then you get to the actual dungeon after that. So the boss bokoblin on the pirate ship that is here when you first arrive, that could be the mini-boss of this, where instead of a normal boss bokoblin, it follows the same rules as the pirate bokoblins, where it's a boss bokoblin with 10% more HP and in a pirate hat, and you could give it some different attack patterns, I guess. Make it a bit different from fighting just a regular old boss bokoblin. Then after you do that, instead of just clearing out the monsters in Lurelin Village, there could be a whole bunch of monsters, pirate monsters, that you have to clear out across Ape Cresia and up to Silka Point. So you fight off a bunch of stuff on your way here. That could be more of the lead up to the dungeon, like we get in the other dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom. And then when you finally reach Silka Point, there would be a bunch of parts for a boat to build. You make a boat, then you head over to Eventide Island, where the actual dungeon proper begins. To make sure that you start the dungeon in the right place, something they could do is have, like, barbed fencing, the fencing that's in quite a few places, the indestructible kind, around in the water, so that you can't just come in at any point and you have to enter by the top area over here by the chasm. So you would have to land around here. Alternatively, they could have it where there is a bunch of cannons on the beach that will fire at you if you try to approach by this direction, so that would drive you to having to land over here. Once you've landed on the island, this guy's lookout tent here could be where you start the dungeon. And instead of just 3 generic monster strongholds around the area, each of these could be more of a full built-up fortress structure that you would have to maneuver your way through, fight off all the enemies inside them, and then once you reached the end of each of these areas, you would have a switch that you had to hit. This way you could do all of them in any order that you wanted, like the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom are usually set up. They're all set up where you just do something in any order for a number of whatever the objective is for that dungeon, just some kind of switch in all of them. But so for these 3 pirate strongholds, you would just fight your way through them and hit the switch at the end. Instead of it just being a simple little structure, it would be full pirate fortress for each one of these 3 areas. And additionally, they could also have cannons set up on these so that you had to be stealthy when approaching them, or just have enough armor and skill to avoid the cannonballs. So the first of these, it could take up, instead of just this little spot here, it could take up the whole forest. Have this whole forest be a fortress that you had to maneuver through, fight off enemies, and then find the switch at the end. That one over there, instead of just being at the top, it could take up everything from the beach across here, and then you would have to reach the top of that fortress to find the switch over there. And then lastly, the one on top of Gaholit Rock, it would just take up more of the area. Instead of being a simple camp, it would actually be a structure taking up that whole area. So after unlocking the 3 switches, the gate in the back here would open. You could get into the main pirate stronghold, well, the final pirate stronghold, where the ship is. But instead of just coming in here and then fighting more stuff, it's already got a good layout for having more structures here. So you would have to go through this whole cave, get to the back of the cave, and then you would find a small key. With the small key, you could use that to get into the pirate ship where the boss would be. And just keep all the pirate bocos here. As the regular bocos that are already here, just make those all pirate bocos also with the 10% higher HP. So it's a bit more of a challenge to fight them. And then the boss could be a pirate captain bokoblin, boss bokoblin variant, since most of the bosses in Tears of the Kingdom are already just alternate versions of existing creatures. Though Goma, Marbled Goma is one that isn't in the game already, but still just a variant of an existing monster. So just have a boss bokoblin that's specially designed as a boss, completely different attack patterns, wearing a big pirate captain's hat, and that would be fought inside the ship after getting a key from working your way through this whole area. So that would make it 4 sections of the dungeon on top of the lead up to the dungeon. So about the same as what you'd have for all the other dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom. Wouldn't be as long as past games, but it would be enough to be comparable to the rest of the dungeons in the game already. So that's it for my ideas for how a Eventide Island dungeon could have worked, and expanding on the whole pirate storyline of Lurelin Village, because there's just barely any story there. Once you're done with the dungeon, you could have the same thing with reconstructing Lurelin Village. If anyone wants me to do more of these on the other ideas I had, like Akala Citadel and Satori Mountain, then leave comments saying that you'd like to see that. And if you have any ideas for how those dungeons could work yourself, feel free to leave those in the comments also, and I could incorporate those into those videos if I do them. So, see you next time.